Hello, it's Memorial Day morning, and I'll take a few minutes to walk about and record how my vegetable garden's doing. There are so many good videos on YouTube from very experienced gardeners that this isn't going to compare, but I thought I would still do this from the standpoint of working with just casual efforts and modest expectations. Not everybody wants to do a lot of work in a garden, and not everybody wants to spend a lot of money in supplies and materials. So this is just a part-time effort. I reused some caging and some posts that I had from an earlier project, and most of the pots are just reused pots left over from buying plants. I'm not going to take the time to dig up large areas of the yard. I don't have machinery for it, but I have the time to pot up a few plants now and then, and it's an opportunity to learn just how much food you can get from a modest effort. And I always say just learn by doing. Experiment, find out what kind of seeds will grow where you live, see if you can save a few bucks versus going to the grocery store. And every time you try something, you can do a little better next year. Everything I have in here is started in 2023, and I've got some different peppers, and some of these are bell peppers, some of them are smaller orange peppers. And I'll admit I've mixed them up and I don't remember which one's which. So that can also be part of what makes gardening interesting, is you can be surprised a little bit later when you find out, what responded to your conditions. I've got some spinach, and I've tried spinach a few different times. I've noticed that it's a little difficult in my area. So, you can have some sense of pride in succeeding in getting some plants when you keep retrying things. I have some leftover lettuce from earlier attempts, and I just put them together in the same pot. This is called 7-top, which is a turnip green. I have strawberries that I actually dug up because I put them in the ground and I never could get any strawberries because the animals kept taking them. And I find strawberries work better in pots. Here are some figs that were cuttings that I rooted. And in this case, I simply had some big twigs from pruning. And sure, there's a proper technique to rooting figs, but I didn't do that. I just had some leftover soil. I figured, what the heck, this was just waste anyway. Stuck it in soil, and 2 out of 3, I'm going to get some more fig plants. Got broccoli here, and sure, you can go on YouTube and you'll see some excellent broccoli heads that have no gaps. These are kind of growing up tall, but I'm fine just eating the leaves even if I don't get good flower heads. It's free food. Why can I complain? I forgot the proper name of this, but one of the colloquial names is goosefoot. It's literally just a weed, and this almost requires no care at all. I mean, it will literally just grow in dry spots in the yard with no watering, no fertilizing. It's a slightly fuzzy leaf. Feels a little funny when you chew it, but it tastes a lot like a pea or a lettuce does. Same context, I have these tubs of greens that I planted this spring, and I hadn't done any greens planting before. I learned that the seed was still viable after 2 or 3 years of waiting. Another discovery is these microgreens grow just fine in the part shade. Planting was very inexpensive to do. The tubs were free. I got them at Dollar General because there was damage on the corner. These were just sitting out by the dumpster and I claimed them. I think planting in tubs is somewhat advantageous because it was still early spring when I started these, and I believe that the sides of the tubs may have assisted keeping frost out of there. Also observed that these tubs seem to draw spiders, which might disturb some people, but I figure the spiders probably are advantageous to the gardener. They are finding something to eat, so they eat the bugs before the bugs eat the greens. That's good for me. Over to the side I have blueberries. This was simple. I got these very early in my gardening experiments, and I believe I just paid $5 for each of them when they were small. The yard service mowed over one of them, but I still have these 3 large blueberry bushes. I don't need to do too much. I just mulch them with grass clippings because blueberries like acidic mulch. And I get a crop every year. By the middle of June, I should be picking blueberries out here. I find these are fairly pest-free plants, although I'll admit I should have been doing more trimming and pruning on these. They're starting to grow over my blackberries. Gardening always does involve some maintenance. But overall, it's not a lot of work, and I am rewarded for gardening with just a very basic amount of effort. It's now Saturday, June 17. It's a nice mild summer morning. I'm beginning to find some maturing blueberries now on these shrubs. Blueberries are a good choice in the eastern USA if you're not sure what to grow, because insects leave them alone for the most part. They're easy to care for. Give them some acidic soil, mulch them, give them water. You get fruit quite easily. I planted these probably about 6 years ago. Haven't really done much besides water them this year. Put a little bit of grass clippings around the base, but not as many berries as I've seen in some prior years, but they still taste fine. The birds are starting to get after them. I've got a couple of different varieties enclosed behind this wire mesh. For some reason, the rabbits seem to be very interested in these, and they keep chewing on them. So maybe next year I'll finally get to get berries. I'm getting some nice clusters on that shrub. All right, I'll walk down and take a look at some of my vegetables. I'll step into my enclosure here and check on the vegetables. Mostly I've just been picking greens from this, but I should have tomatoes pretty soon. These peppers are starting to form a few flowers down in there, so give this a bit more time. I should have some peppers later in the summer. Maybe I should eat this spinach faster. It looks like it's starting to bolt and form flowers, but that's okay. I'll get to learn a few things about how it behaves if I don't eat it in time. And this broccoli's shooting up. I've been picking leaves and flowers off the broccoli, but this will continue growing apparently. I've got some lettuce types, and you can tell where I've been picking off some of these leaves. This is going to form flower. And look how tall this one's growing. I know I didn't label the tomatoes properly, but I think this one is early girl because that should be the first one to form tomatoes, and it's such a large plant. This one I'm pretty sure is Independence Day based on the leaf type. And I think this one is Abe Lincoln because the tomatoes have this heirloom quality to them. And I've got a few collards down in here. Looks like the bugs like the collards too. So that's the state of things. And I've got avocados as usual, so I'll make another video in a few weeks and talk about how the avocados are going.